Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Market just closed. It is 4:17 p.m. June 17th, 2020. Good day today. Good trading day. Let's look at the S&P 500. I'm going to give you some ideas on what I think is happening here, what to look out for, a couple interesting plays on stocks, and I guess we can start with the volatility after we go to SPY real quick. And I've been playing the market short the last few days, but you have to kind of know the ranges, and I'll tell you why I've been playing it short, but that energy is going to start shifting, and I need to be a little bit more cautious here. We know the big island top reversal happened, and we talked about the upper channel hitting. We even talked about an extension. There's multiple channels on the SPY here that we use, and the focus of my shorts is not S&P 500. I've been using SDOW. Depending on where the Nasdaq's at, I've used SQQQ, but I know the intraday ranges pretty well, so I can kind of get an idea of where I think the market has to reach in order to complete an intraday cycle. So this morning's video, or last night's video, or actually on StockTwits it might have been, I said that TVIX would have an inside day, meaning, and somebody asked me what an inside day is, meaning that it won't break the low of yesterday and it won't break the high of yesterday. Which was pretty accurate on TVIX today. Then the S&P 500 did the same thing, another inside day, which leads me to believe there's a little bit of uncertainty and confusion on the next move in the market. So we look at a couple hints to kind of give us an idea of what's going to happen and where the energy lies. So we don't look for continuation moves on the downside, but I did think that at some point today 310.90 would be tagged. So in knowing that, I can set up my short intraday depending on where we're at, and I know my risk reward ratio. And I'll show you what I'm looking at. So first of all, let's look at the advanced decline line. Actually, the McClellan Oscillator, which encompasses a lot of the stocks on the New York Stock Exchange, and kind of give you the market breadth. And you can see exactly what we did on the market breadth. We pulled back down to the lower red line. We bounced and hit the upper red line, and now we're literally sitting here completely neutral. So literally talk about the market really not knowing what the next direction is. And the rally's been pretty definitive in my mind, which direction we were going. But right now, it's going to get a little bit tricky. And I'll show you why I was using some shorts that I've been using. So looking at the island top reversal, we're inside the gap there. And if we zoom in, and actually let's just go through the channels here really quick and why I use these channels. So when we had the big move up, we started to bounce along the upper channel here. And we can change the color of this one just so you can kind of make a reference between the two. And we'll do edit properties, and we'll make that one yellow and see how that shows up a little bit better for you guys to see. So this is the larger channel that's obviously becoming more outlined and more definitive as we move along. And we don't really have a channel until we start getting some history behind us, right? We need to see where this ends and where this stops. But there's also another channel here that kept me safe and not thinking that we were going to do a head and shoulders. And it's actually, I thought we were going to do a sideways channel here, but there is a little bit of a momentum line that runs right along here inside that channel. It runs just about like that. And there's also another channel on top of that, if we draw that as a channel, that runs something about like this. And if we want to color that one blue to kind of differentiate that one as well. And we're going to have too many channels here. Probably going to drive you guys crazy. And this is what's important to kind of figure out where we're going. So here's our main channel, right? We haven't violated that. No matter what anybody says about, these narrowing, ranges to the top, whatever they call it, and the market breaks, it's not true. You go into a sideways pattern, and there's a momentum sideways pattern in here. And these candles are very important. The top of this, the bottom of this, the opening below, and then going up and then retesting the tail on this blue line, and then breaking the red channel here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tests, and then pushing up through it and putting a tail on here, back testing it, and then going up through there. So, and then you can see the multiple hits along here, right? On the blue line. Let's kind of zoom in there and see. So these lines are huge. And I'm going to zoom this out a little bit. I mean, these might not be perfect for right now, but you guys get the idea, right? And you can kind of see how we hit the red line, hit it multiple times along here, and then we push through, and then we hit the momentum line. So now we go from a sideways transition to the upper end of the main channel by hitting the blue line, hitting it, pulling back, as long as we don't violate the red line, right? Because that's our sideways consolidation channel. And as we moved up and hit the top area where I said the market had topped out, and then we started to break down. Then we had the huge gap down, big volume. But what did we do? We did nothing but retest the main channel. In fact, we never broke under the top of the intermediate channel. So we put some tails through it, but every close, the close was right on it. Look at that, spot on the intermediate channel. And then we hit the top of the momentum channel, couldn't push through, right? Because that was a heck of a move down, right? That was a lot. That was a lot of energy there. And now we're trying to fill the gap. But I've been using this as a short, and I'll show you why on a 20-minute chart. So we are still, look at that, we just touched the top end of the momentum channel today. I literally just tagged it, an inside day. So this is still very bullish, regardless of, wow, they opened up and they sold into it. Yeah, because we still have selling energy. We still have a lot of overhead supply energy here. But there's a little bit more buying energy than selling energy. An interesting thing is, if you take this move right here and we stretch it out, and we're going to bring this down, and you run a Fibonacci, this is a good way to see who's in charge right now. You take the top area there, we don't have to be perfect, and then the bottom area there. And as long as the bulls can keep this above the 310.13 area, and like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect, 310, they're in charge. Okay? 310 gives you a 50% retracement from the top to the bottom move here. And we tried to get up to the 78.6, but we ran out a little bit of energy there. Now we're kind of just hanging out here. If we get below 310 on a close, now it tells you the bears are in charge. And if they start to push it down below this channel, then we can short using the channel as a backstop. But today's shorting, I was saying, okay, we're gonna tag intraday. I'll show you really quick. I said we're gonna tag 310.90 at some point today. So here's my intraday channel charts that I draw. Let me put them back up there. Undo clear drawing set. So for me, there's two lines. 316.71 is my cover line. You get me 20 minutes over there and I'm gonna cover. I just think it can tag it, but there's no energy there. And where that number comes from is this candle in after hours right here. It got up to 316.96, but I don't consider that. I thought that was a little bit of a spike, and then I look for the bounce area where the last candle is before it pulls back from the spike. So 316.71 is my backdrop. As long as we stay below there, I feel comfortable shorting. So now if I think 310.90 is going to get hit today, and we get up at 314, well, I got a better risk-reward ratio to the downside. And I don't know why, but my intraday channels aren't drawing right now. But as long as you can kind of get an idea, of intraday, and then I'll zoom in on here and kind of show you. When you're watching the intraday charts form, I usually don't trade right off the bat unless I have a good idea of what the market's going to do right out of the close, or maybe have a short setup on a stock. So once we started making this move up here to the 314 area, I'm like, okay, it's got some power here. Let's let it. And now once it breaks the momentum line, I look at the back test, and then I set my short with my stop just above there. But I'm using 316 as a reference number for where we have the potential to get intraday. But if we start to lose a little bit of strength there, and then we break channel, and then we back test that area, and we can't get back above there, multiple back tests, then I go short. And then I know once we break this pivot line here at 313, and that goes way back. I'm not going to show you how far back that goes. But then I stay short, and then I look for the 310.90, which was here in a minute. You had to be quick to get it, and then it fired back up again. So these are fun little intraday shorts to do. On the video, we talked about RPRX, was a very interesting pharma company that we liked and kind of hinted this is going to be a good one. And I got to be honest with you, yesterday I bought at 45 and I had a profit. I had 350 shares. Did not expect this channel to be broken, but when it broke and then it got back up, I felt a little bit better. But still, at some point, I was down, $1,000 on this thing, and I was like, wow, it's not acting correct. Just shows you the volatility. Look at this. Opening on the IPO, right? rockets to the upside. So I want to see which way they're going to move right off the bat, right? So when they start to move up like that and they pull back, then I can at least get an idea of, okay, it has the potential to move higher. And then I usually, sometimes I set a stop, sometimes I don't. Depends on how much I like the IPO. This one I really liked, so I was like, all right, I'm just going to ride it. I bought in heavy, had multiple times to get out for a decent profit and then a slight profit, and then just to watch it close to fall down that hard intraday to 42. And I'm like, wow. I thought about buying some more here as it broke the descending trend line to show me that the big money was waiting for everybody to shake out, right? And then they want to step in. They want to get everybody out of it. They want to see how low it can go with sellers before they step in. Well, then they stepped in, and then today, what a move, man. Today they started gapping it up in pre-market, and I was like, man, once we get over that 45, 90, 46 area, it got right to there in pre-market, it pulled back, and that was it. This thing was on fire. Good looking moves. I sold some into the 5140. I sold some into this, if I just draw a line intraday, I can kind of see, we really don't know how high it's going to go, but if we kind of draw a line across here, we can kind of see where it runs out of momentum a little bit. So I started selling some when it started to break 50.80, 50.70 or whatever. Then I got back in a little bit more, so I still have some shares. I still think it can go quite a bit higher if the market behaves. So that's an interesting one to look at too as well. But those are the kind of things you look at. TVIX, I traded a little bit today using my numbers on intraday on SPY. And then I got a funny story for you guys too to close up on. But here's my channels on TVIX that I use. And I kind of do it more off of where I think the high in SPY is going to be. So when I see that high hit in SPY, I buy a little bit of TVIX. Nothing crazy, and then I sell it into strength because it's not a buy and hold. Basing it on my channels. Once we hit 310.90 on SPY, now it's time to get out of TVIX, which was interesting for you guys that are buying holds on TVIX. Even though the market made a lower low on SPY late in the day, this could not get back to its previous high. So it's starting to lose a little bit of energy day by day on TVIX. We try to get people out of this in 196s, low 200s, 210s. So they just think the market's going to collapse and that this is a buy and hold and it'll be back to 1,000. It'll never see 1,000 again unless you do a reverse split ever. Because even if the market were to break the prior lows, it would never get up to 1,000 again. You have to understand how this thing works. And it doesn't correlate directly to the S&P as an underlying asset. So understand that. The funny one yesterday was that U1. And I'll close on this, that U1, and I was like, this thing is insane. Yesterday it went from like $6 to 40. And I can't chase these things, but what they do is when they set up a pattern intraday, sorry about that. When they set up a pattern intraday, what I will do is watch them pull back, and I want to get all the sellers out. And what I do is I watch these little wedges form, these little bull patterns, and then I trade the breakout wedge. So if we look at this right here, and I'm going to zoom back in and show you, if you don't feel like chasing these, which they are really just strictly buy and close your eyes and hold your breath, this candle was an outlier because it really was one minute candle and it engulfed the whole thing on the way back down. So I really don't like that, using that as as an indicator of my channel marker. So what I'll be doing is I'll be watching it, and then as it starts to tighten in the wedge, I'll buy in and I'll put my stop under the prior candle low area for reference. And then you catch these big moves, right? I mean, you catch these fire up and then you sell them again, then you're waiting for it to create another wedge. And here's another wedge, and then you buy this one and you sell it again, thinking that this is the top, and you're an idiot because it goes to 40. Now, I kept some shares, but this thing was like ridiculous. Once it comes up to this channel here, you can kind of sit and wait and see, okay, if this thing breaks this channel right in here, it's gonna fly to the upside. But then it's a guessing game after there, right? Musical chairs. For sure. I mean, who would expect it to go to $40 a share? You just got to sell in pieces. But these are the setups, and I'm thinking about doing maybe like a text messaging service to kind of show you guys what I'm looking at. But what I did do intraday, when I was like, okay, I got to find another company. What I did was I Googled. I went on Google, and you can do it yourself too. It's kind of funny. I went on Google, and I Googled. I'm looking at my phone right now to see what I Googled. Let's see if I still have it. I basically Googled like the same type of company that U1 is, a radio, ethnic radio company, but I can't remember what the exact words I used. Let me see if I can pull it up. But it was funny because the company that there's two other companies that came up, three companies. One of them was Beasley Broadcasting Group. So I was like, okay, this company actually makes money, although their last earnings wasn't that great. And I'm like, let me pull in some, and I pull it up, and it's literally trading at like $2 flat, no interest, nobody's in it, right? And I know how traders are around here; they don't want it unless it starts moving. So here we are yesterday on. I'm gonna pull up the chart from yesterday. Here we are yesterday on BBGI, right? It's just sitting there around $2. I'm like, okay, no one's looking at what I'm looking at. So I started buying shares though because it was easy to buy them, and I set an alert on my phone. I set an alert that would say if the volume share obviously was up 10% over average volume. I don't know why it's not giving me that. I would get an alert, or if it broke, I think it was like 227 to the upside, I would get an alert. And sure enough, if we zoom in on the 1 minute here, it just starts firing intraday. And I sent a couple guys messages, and they made quite a bit of money on this one because nobody was in it. We caught it right before anybody. Now I kept some into the close, and I was like, man, just could this be like another monster move today? I was thinking, could this be like a 5 or 6, from the entry at 220? Could I double my money on my position in here? Because I sold some into the close, but I kept some over thinking this is going to be a monster gapper in the morning. And it just wasn't behaving in the morning, and I did not catch that move to the upside, which surprisingly, once you have a break of the prior high, you thought you would have got a continuation move. Nope, they sold right into it. So it seems like these people are picking and choosing which stocks that they pile into, and maybe one day we'll be blessed. And we have gotten a few IMRN and CLDX, XELA, I don't know, ZE, I forget what it was. We had a couple of these that were just, and I had buddies that had them for months. We call them trash to cash. Months, nothing ever happened. Then they go up tenfold. So it's pretty good to find them when you can. And I got a couple ideas. I had mentioned HAPP. Hopefully that'll be hit one day because I'm building a position in that. But yeah, here's where it just started rocking and rolling. It was fun because I already had accumulated a big position. And I was just trying to determine how high this thing might go, though. Made some good money on that one. But funny that nobody really looked into it, and it's just sitting there. That's probably my shares down there being bought. Right there, maybe. No. Anyway, all right, guys. We will. I'll get back with you guys later, and we'll try to determine which way the market's going to go. But we have some references, right? Under 310 and change. The bears are starting to get in control, and above that number, the bulls are in control. Other than that, the market looks range bound here. Do I see a crash? No, I don't see a crash coming. I will say this. Sunday night, there's that Trump show on, and it's not going to be too flattering for him. I don't know how the market's going to react to that, to be honest with you. Because now we have a definitive top end, right? Now the psychology of the market is going to rule the day, for sure. We've made our move. We've had some NASDAQ stocks hit all-time highs. We've shown that there is the ability to hit a new all-time high. We've seen it in the NASDAQ. We've seen it in plenty of individual stocks. But it's yet to prove itself in the S&P and the Dow Jones Industrial. So we keep that in mind. But we also realize, too, that there could be a lot of volatility in the end of the year, not around COVID, not around earnings, but about the structure of the market and the Fed's ability to keep this thing intact. And we've talked about that. It's kept us safe from not shorting the hell out of the market and trying to keep guys safe from, buying TVIX and holding it. But I think that could be in a little bit of jeopardy towards the end of the year. And we talked about that. We just didn't know what levels we'd be at when that could possibly occur. So at least we have a reference now to use. 316.71 is my area that I short against. Intraday, I'm looking for highs in the market and selling energy. I told you there'd be a lot of social unrest towards. This was months ago. We talked about it. We didn't know where it come from. We just know that when you lock a bunch of people down for too long, they get a little restless. Who knew that it would, be over some crazy cops killing people for no good reason? It's kind of like one of those weird things where the market finds a reason, right? Or people find a reason. They just need a trigger. The market back in March was ready to sell off. It just needed a trigger, and the virus was the trigger. So could the election be another trigger for a sell-off to the downside? It certainly could, because now we're getting into some areas where the shorts have already been squeezed out. Don't expect them to help. The retail traders in there, fully invested. At least they're probably done piling in. So there's a lot of things that have helped move the market. The Fed's obviously there providing the backdrop and basically saying we'll do whatever it takes. So the market feels pretty courageous when there's pullback saying, oh, this isn't going to be a continuation move. And we know that. I know that. I respect that. And that's how I trade off of that. But when that changes, then I'll change. But for now, I don't really think a lot of these things are being affected by, Main Street's not able to affect Wall Street just yet. We'll see how it plays out though.